entrepreneurs. Again, my name is Jeffrey Davis, and I want to thank all our listeners for tuning in. We are the #1 internet radio show for the publication of internet stories on entrepreneurship in Massachusetts and all of New England. And we want to thank all our listeners for continuing to tune in to us. Excuse me about that if I was a little tongue-tied. I also want to thank our host, Kevin Smith from Best of Care, who's been hosting us through all these segments, doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Happy to have you guys.
Thank you. We always love coming back here once we get our parking situated. Our next guest, Jeremy West, founder and managing director, JAO Medical Consultants. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What does JAO Medical Consultants do?
JAO Medical Consultants, we help private medical practices. I came up in healthcare and have seen sort of multiple angles of the industry, and it's a complicated business. Less and less practices are privately owned nowadays, and we're sort of headed in the direction of standardized care with these big health systems. And my goal is to really help private medical practices stay in business and stay viable.
Is it all MDs, or would it also be social workers, psychologists, home health care providers? I mean, is it all areas?
Yeah, all areas. I sort of specialize in a couple areas, but neurology is where I came up. I do offer services across the industry, but neurology is sort of near and dear to me, and it's kind of my little niche, but we do offer services across the board to any medical practices or organizations.
Now,
I'm sorry, you go first.
Are you a team of consultants, or is it Jeremy West?
Yep. So the business itself is I'm at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
I do utilize a network of professionals and organizations across the industry. So revenue cycle management companies, IT vendors. We sort of leverage other organizations as well, because I think typically what I've seen in healthcare is consultants come in with this plug and play, square peg in a round hole thing, and that doesn't always work. Every practice is different, every organization is different, so we like to tailor suit those things to our customers.
You're speaking to the converted when you talk to me, because I've had a management consulting firm since 1985, and I do not like standardized anything.
No, it never works, especially in healthcare.
People are not standardized.
No, they're not.
So when you try to fit them into a standardized model, you're going to get a mediocre answer.
Yes, exactly. And we want it to fit for the businesses and the customers we work with. We don't want it to be like, hey, we sign on and we're forcing you into this thing. We try to be very consultative and to understand what the needs of your patients are, what the needs of the practice are, and we help them to fit that.
So how did you get into the business?
Well, when I first graduated college, I had it in my head that I was going to be a social worker, and you come out of school and it's like, okay, what next? Mm-hmm. Well, I was a case manager in a behavioral health facility, and really a thankless job, high stress. You're dealing with people that have considerable medical issues and psychological issues, and unfortunately the pay for those types of jobs isn't the greatest either. So high rate of burnout, and I kind of started there, get into healthcare to help people, and eventually it became, well, what do I do now? I want a career, and I want to be able to support a family one day. So funny enough, a friend of mine gave me a call out of the blue one day and said, hey, would you like to manage my neurology practice? So I said,
that's
Doc.
Out of the blue.
Not an everyday call.
No. And he was having a lot of business issues. Needless to say, I said, Doc, do you think I'm really the right person for this job? And he said, oh yeah. Okay, the rest is history.
Jeremy, when you look at like Kevin and I don't know if we had a choice about being entrepreneurs. We come from an entrepreneurial families.
Right.
Did you? Was it in the blood, or it just sort of happened?
A little bit. My father was was an electrical engineer. Raised here in Boston, and not a great family life, and he's never had anything given to him, and had to sort of pave his own way, and never went to college. But back when he started, that wasn't a necessity of that
Right.
field.
Right.
So he had been involved in many startups over the years, and I remember being a little kid and sort of hearing the squabbles between him and my mother and the struggles of that. And eventually he had been involved in a startup that was sold off to Cisco Systems, and he retired in his mid-50s, and
Nice.
has been pursuing things that he enjoys doing, like photography. And I kind of model.
So it is sort of in the blood a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because it does make a difference when you grow up with that.
Sure, absolutely. It shaped me. So
Right. So the instability that a lot of people experience isn't instability to people who've grown up with it. They just sort of, it's predictable.
right.
One question I think the listeners will be interested in asking is, how do your clients find you?
Sure.
Or why do they look for you?
Yep, great question. I think that a lot of clients typically in this industry, they kind of find you by word of mouth. You've worked with a colleague, or you've been connected with another practice, and they say, I got a person that can help you with whatever your struggles are. Part of what I do is help them uncover what their struggles are. From my experience, a lot of offices or practices don't even know that they have a problem or that they have an issue. Medical practices are, so complicated. A lot of doctors just want to be doctors. They don't necessarily want to be a small business owner. They pass their revenue cycle management along to a company, and they see money hitting their bank account every day or every week, and they don't ask questions. But the margins are getting slimmer and slimmer. Operational costs are getting bigger, and reimbursement is getting smaller for these docs. So it's more important than ever for them to just be in tune with their business.
Do you have to sell their businesses as well, or are you involved in selling their businesses as well?
Yes, at times we help practices. So depending on the goals, if a doctor's goal is to, sell their business and sell their practice or exit in some way, we definitely help with that process.
Speaking from someone who's worked horizontally across industries, what I hear from a lot of professional advisors is, I hate working with doctors.
Yes.
They can be very difficult to
Yep.
deal with. Now, I used to work for Ethicon, so I understand doctors a little bit, but you've decided to stay vertical within that category.
Yeah.
Have you figured out the formula? Are they not difficult for you? Idiosyncratic?
Yeah, idiosyncratic's a good way to describe it. I think it definitely varies widely. A lot of doctors, they're so educated, they're very intelligent, and sometimes, like anybody, they can have quirks to them. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to doctors. They don't always think in an entrepreneurial way. They don't become doctors because they're looking to start this corporation and run a business. They usually get into medicine, from my experience, because they want to help people, and it's a calling for them. So just listening, understanding what their pain points are and what their needs are, and letting them know, hey, you be the doctor, and I'm here to help you with the numbers in the business, so that we can take care of that for you, and you can do your thing.
Sounds like the right approach.
It does sound like the right approach. And a lot of doctors that I've known, they're very good at what they do. They don't necessarily know, they don't focus in on the business side of the business the way they focus in on the healthcare side of the business.
Yes.
And you do need to focus in on that as much or more.
Yeah, especially now. Years ago, it was different. I mean, even when I started in neurology, almost 10 years ago, it was common for the patients that come in a private practice is like a small sort of family atmosphere, and it's like, oh yeah, that guy's my mother's cousin's friend. We're gonna just not charge him a copay, and they're gonna come in the door, and we're gonna see him.
That was my GP as a kid.
Yep. And now it's some old school docs still have that mentality, and it's like, they're telling their office, don't charge them a copay, but then they have a $7,000 deductible, and they come in and a quote-unquote copay equals the whole cost of the visit. So it just doesn't work that way anymore, and sometimes it takes a little bit of education to the docs to understand, because they don't understand that that's always the case.
Well, it is a changing field of play.
Absolutely.
And I assume that it's very important for people to know, people like you, especially that are trying to stay private practice in medicine.
Yeah.
So if someone was looking for you, Jeremy, how would they do that?
Sure. So they can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, any of those outlets. They can also visit my website. It's jaomedical.com. We try to make it super easy for them. Usually my first interaction with a client will be to get on the phone with them and just understand their business a little bit. I do provide a reimbursement analysis. This is usually something that I do so that it can put their mind at ease. There's so many vendors and salespeople approaching doctors, and they don't have time. We want to show them value right away, up front, so that if they do decide to work with us, they're confident that we, one, know what we're doing and that we're going to help their bottom line.
That's great. And we hope that, we want to thank our host for hosting all these segments, Kevin Smith from Best to Care. And we hope that when we come back here again that you'll come as well, because clearly you bring a topic area that's very important, the private practice of doctors.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank Kevin for hosting us through this segment.
You're welcome.
Great.
Great to have everybody.
And remind everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs, always wanting to share the success of entrepreneurship. And we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages.